Okay, thank you everyone. Thanks very much for having me as a keynote speaker. I just want to talk about a new research that I've been working on to think about how we can actually embed AI into our society, and we're going to look at in my view, the most important factor of a society, which is through education. And I would then um, talk about how we actually use this research from the higher education setting to have more implications on business and governance of the society towards AI. Um, so I'm very happy to be presenting this very exciting research. So the key idea here is that we have a governance problem with the new era of AI. AI is already in our society. It is already in higher education. So the question now is not between AI and no AI, but it is the question about can we make the use of AI more accountable? Can we actually think about the way to govern the use of AI? There are some facts that we are observing every day. For example, students have been using AI for the last few years. ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot, they have been using quite many other AI available, often without guidance or verification or some institutional oversight. Universities around the world have developed policies, but there is no common, clear governance approach to it. A few have built some infrastructure so that they can make AI mediated knowledge more accountable. For example, to think about the prompts that the student use or some other ways to actually check whether students understand the responses or the results or the final products generated or helped to generate by AI. And there is a concerning widening equity gap here as well. Some unverified AI helps some confident students who can judge the limits, the disadvantages, the drawbacks of AI, but it also harms those who cannot do it very well. Precisely, the students at universities want to support the kind of students we would like to support in our society. So to do this, we have done a very exciting research based on a controlled um, um, experiment at a leading UK business school. We have like four steps. So we have to generate, verify, label, and evaluate. In the first step, we create some um, learning supporting materials, for example, some AI interactive podcasts, some FAQs or study guides, documents, using the course materials grounded on an open LLM. This is the Google Notebook LLM, which is really good. You guys should really have a go with it. We then ask and pay a graduate teaching assistant, a PhD student who has a really good understanding of the materials to check every output for accuracy against the curriculum and the syllabus and the teaching materials before releasing it to our students. And what we're trying to do here is that we're trying to label it. We're trying to make the student very clearly aware that the materials are transparently labeled as AI generated, but academically verified. What we're trying to do here is that we're trying to instill this confidence from the students that they know what they are using. So these are not human produced, which would cost us a lot of time to do it. So our idea is that we're trying to use AI to help reduce the workload for the faculties, but also trying to instill some confidence in the end users, which is our students, that they can confidently use it. Okay, so we're trying to make sure that students understand the materials are academically verified. And then we're trying to evaluate whether, this can actually help the students and what kind of student that these academically verified AI-generated teaching supporting materials can help. Okay, so what we found, we had a very nice setup over 2 years. So we exploited this difference in different setting design together with some interviews with the students. So mainly what we found is that the introduction of the academically verified AI-generated teaching supporting materials actually had some material effects on the student, positive it is. So it increased the performance of student by around 2.34 marks out of 50. So it's around, 70%, sorry, 7% increase in the student average performance. Um, we actually saw that there was a huge improvement at the top end. However, for the lower end, the performance is not as good. So what we're trying to see here is that with this a strong institutional support for governance, so we explicitly tell students whether the use of AI is verified or not. What we're trying to see is that who benefits from it. Is it the lower end of the student performance spectrum or at the higher end? So what we did here is that we tried to have a look at a quartile regression, and we found the performance actually supported the bottom 20% of the distribution. For the median and the top students, there's no change in their performance. What we're saying is that the materials, the teaching, the AI generated academically verified materials may have substituted for the resources that weaker students actually need. These are the students who may benefit from the interactive nature of the materials, that they can listen when they commute, those who have to do some part-time jobs to support the study, because these are quite easily accessible in a smaller bites compared to the lecture notes. Some people with, second language to the teaching, some neurodiverse students perhaps benefited the most. So the implication of this research is that the benefits of AI can be really evaluated distributionally. So we can see quite a different range of the benefits from different kind of users. And that's just a good thing, right? So what we're trying to raise the question from this research is how our findings can actually be useful for policymakers, for institutional players, as well as for some accreditation bodies. So when we think about the accountability of AI, the framework that we try to use in evaluating the survey is who is actually accountable when AI can actually help teaching the students. If we have some unverified AI, then no person being responsible for the content accuracy. Student cannot distinguish between hallucination from the actual fact from the curriculum. Institutions can claim some innovation, but they bear no epistemic risk. There would be some accountability gap between the fluent output and the trustworthy output. However, if we have some verified AI, we can have some source-grounded information. AI only draws from some authorized course materials, some verifier being named, so a human expert checks and sign-ups before the release. The labeling is very transparent. Students know that it is AI generated, but was checked by some trusted academic. Institutional accountability can go from the tool to the verifier and to the end user, which is the student. So the position for this policy that can be generalized to other form of governance in business or in policy is that AI mediated materials should require a named, qualified human verifier before any of the institutional release. We also looked at the educational equity as a governance obligation. The verified AI materials compressed the lower end tail of the marking distribution. The share of the students at the serious academic risk was halved, so they were supported very well. These gained went to commuting, working second language, or neurodiverse students. The populations most often invoked in equity policy, but least often reached by some conventional interventions. So the use of AI can actually be useful for these kind of students. Some implications for policy could be equity-oriented AI interventions should be thought of or evaluated distributionally. The mean effects, if we're only looking at the mean, then maybe we don't really see the real value of any AI governance. Funding bodies should require some disaggregated outcome data by access barrier profile, right? So these people may often benefit the most from AI. AI adoption that benefits only the already advantaged is not an equity innovation. It's the automation of the privilege, right? So when we think about AI, we should think about who in the disadvantaged background can benefit from it, not only supporting the better students. So we were thinking about in terms of education in terms of policymaker, we can hope for a new academic workforce. If verification is essential, then who is going to be doing it and how they should be treated? So the role of the verifier, it could comes from the subject expertise so that they can actually judge the fidelity to the curriculum. Pedagogical authority students can recognize, and some skill sets in terms of prompt design as well as the content evaluation. So these should be the good people to do it. The risk to the labor for this is that the verification takes around 30 minutes per week per model. So it's quite modest, but it's also costly. So it shouldn't be treated as some invisible add-on to the precarious GTEC contracts. They should be paid, they should be incentivized to actually do it. But this also opened up some opportunity. Maybe we'll think about a new professional development pathway, some verifier training, some prompt engineering, some multimodal content design. So these are transferable skills that doctoral and early career researchers can actually carry forward. So we can actually build up a new role for this in the academic workforce. The one way takeaway, the one sentence takeaway, the labor required for verification must be compensated, must be trained, and must be recognized. It shouldn't be outsourced to some unpaid postgraduates. So we can think about some labor policy here as well. In terms of quality assurance, the current accreditation framework, the AICSB, the AQUIS, the QAA, were not designed for AI-mediated teaching. They need to cater. And how? We shouldn't ban specific tools. It is impossible to enforce. It shouldn't require disclosure without specifying the standards. Evaluating AI adoption on means outcomes alone is not good. The governance from this perspective should be using standards based on design feature, source grounding, expert verification, transparent labeling. We should think about distributional impact requiring the evidence and some documented revision and iteration process. And the VDE cycle that I've mentioned, and we had more details in our working paper, can give us as a standard. We need to have someone to verify, and then we have someone to distribute, and then we come back and look at how we can actually evaluate who benefits, not just how AI is used. Some other ideas that our research is implicating is to think about transparency, to think about privacy and students' agency. I want to talk a little bit about students' agency here because it directly relates to the project. So when we label AI content um, as being academically very verified and very much transparently so, it actually teaches students a professional norm. We should always ask who checked AI output, from what sources, to what standard. This is not just a pedagogical benefit, it is a civic competency for AI-saturated society. When we think about data governance, the course materials uploaded to AI tools raise the IP and privacy concerns. Our designs use Google Workspace for indication, where user content is not used for model training. Some national policy should mandate equivalent privacy guarantees for any AI used tools used in public universities. So if we look at the bigger picture, how this research actually can tell us about governing AI in a society, we have four pillars. The first one is AI does not self-govern. Fluent output is not trustworthy output. Every domain that adopts AI needs an equivalent of verification alignment, a process that checks AI claims against authorized knowledge. Equity requires design, not hope. Our AI materials helped the bottom 20% and left the top 50% unchanged. So equity is an engineering problem. It requires intentional distribution and measurement, not optimistic adoption. AI literacy is a civic competency. Students who learn to evaluate verified and unverified AI in a classroom carry that habit into some professional and civic life. So educational policies that treats AI literacy as optional may be producing a society that is unable to govern its own tools. So we need to teach more students this skill set. And the governance policy must keep pace with it. Accreditation, quality assurance, and funding frameworks must evolve from do you have an AI policy to can you demonstrate accountable, equitable, and evidence-based AI integration. So that's our view. We have five recommendations as follow. The first one is to require some named verification for any AI-generated teaching material released through institutional channels. We have to mandate distributional impact reports for equity-oriented AI initiatives. Some information disaggregated by the access barrier for a profile. We also need to compensate, train, and recognize AI verifier role as a distinct professional function, not an invisible add-on. Develop accreditation criteria that assess governance of the AI content chain, not just the licensing of some specific tools. Embed AI transparency and critical evaluation into curricula as a civic competency, not merely a technical elective. So the choice is this is to end my keynote. The choice is not between AI and no AI. The choice is between governed AI and ungoverned AI, how we can actually do it properly. So thank you very much, and looking forward to hear more about any thoughts or idea on our project. Thank you.